Rhode is an extremely new brand, launched very late in the history of celebrity cosmetic brands, yet they've already found a huge presence in the market. But what is it about the company that has made it such a cultural hit? Is their success sustainable, or alternatively, is this just another celebrity cash grab? Rhode, despite their claims that it was born during the pandemic, was actually conceived before 2019. We know this because of their trademarks, the first of which were rejected by the US and Patent Trademark Office in early 2019. Then, Do Beauty and Dewy Beauty were trademarked in early 2020, only for them to change the name several more times before landing on Rhode Beauty later in 2020. Though, honestly, I would imagine the idea of Bieber owning a cosmetic brand was actually conceived around 2016-2017, after she noticed the profits drawn in from her Model Co capsule collection, though that is just me speculating. We can actually learn a lot from these trademark filings, in fact, such as both of their considered logos and perhaps a third, although I couldn't confirm this one was specifically for this company. Also, the fact that they've trademarked everything beauty related as well as lifestyle related, including clothing, perhaps alluding to a further expansion, though actually this kind of wide trademarking is common, so it could mean nothing, but I do want to highlight a few that I thought were interesting, including holiday ornaments, walking sticks, parasols, and whips. It's around this time that we also see the personal branding of Hailey Bieber develop, with the help of a lot of get ready with me videos, barefaced pictures on Instagram, interest in her beauty regime. She even this early on starts talking about peptides, all of which, though got more popular after the launch of Rhode, certainly saw a start at this point, in a way which reads as if they were testing the waters for demand of all of the different components that would go on to be Rhode Beauty, especially with peptides as they're the main ingredient in all of their products. Simultaneously, as the team were working on this, they were also planning things like packaging, formulas, and marketing, for which we find the first real point of difference for Rhode. During the development stage, she brought in several skincare influencers like Hiram and Ben Neely to get their feedback, as well as what they call an advisory board, which are basically chemists and dermatological consultants to help with the development of the formula. Neither of these groups of people in the development stage are particularly unique in terms of having them help with development. Every brand, even at a smaller scale, will have some kind of focus group. Tiny brands will use their friends, and larger brands can use experts or even do things like blind testing with members of the public. Plus, every skincare or makeup company will have expert chemists, and most will have dermatologists because they need them in order to ensure their product is safe and effective. The difference is that Rhode included people, one, with large followings that could help the brand market itself in the establishing phase, and two, used these names and the fact that it had been overseen by experts in the marketing to establish the brand as a legitimate product. This is very smart, as often consumers worry that a celebrity has just slapped their name on a product to make money, and they doubt the quality or the effectiveness of the product. So by doing this, they preempt that criticism and get articles like this one from Forbes that say it's not just an average celebrity beauty brand, which it actually is, it's just marketed very well. Which of course brings us to the launch on the 15th of June 2022. It had been long teased online, so there was an immediacy to the launch of their first 3 products. That were the peptide glazing fluid, the barrier restore cream, and the peptide lip treatment. All products were under $30, so at an affordable price point. They were able to be purchased online, so had a good place of purchase. Promotion, as I mentioned, had been built, and the products themselves worked for everyone. These are very calculated products to begin with for that reason, and because of the low barrier to entry, sold out in 10 minutes only. Were any of these products new or unique? No, not really, but they found a unique way to sell the products by touting their industry experts and packaging them in a way that was incredibly on trend, especially with their championing of peptides, which was very on-trend ingredient in skincare after new research showed that it may help with moisturising or anti-aging. It was a brilliant launch and very well calculated for her target market. However, it wasn't exactly unique. Unfortunately, also in June 2022, KKW was rebranded to Skin and relaunched to an equally big furore. KKW had been a long-established brand before this, Kim Kardashian is obviously more famous, and Skin had a very similar packaging style. Luckily, the two were differentiated by price. Skin was far more expensive, and it was intended as a more luxury purchase, so simply was made for a different consumer. Therefore did avoid too harsh of a comparison, though it was very plentiful. Plus, several articles bring up the fact that the Kardashians have had a lot of brands, while this is Hailey Bieber's first, adding a sense of authenticity that is somewhat missing from a Kardashian brand today. However, that wasn't Rhode's only comparison. You see, there's another beauty company called Rhodes that had been launched in 2004. This is a UK-based company launched by an elderly lady, and after Rhodes' launch day, they had thousands of pounds of orders that, after they were quickly cancelled as consumers realised their mistakes, made the business have to stop selling entirely to the US for a period of time because the company footed some of the returns fee as part of their policy and just couldn't afford more losses. This obviously didn't reflect well on Rhode Beauty at launch, and they had a fair amount of negative press because of it, but there wasn't much that they could do, and eventually the scandal was forgotten about, leaving Rhode Beauty with anticipation for new products. At least that was until a clothing brand also named Rhode came forward and sued the company for copyright infringement. They alleged that she had used her celebrity status as leverage to get her copyrights honored by the courts and allow her to continue to use the name while they gathered more evidence. But in light of all of this, and regardless of how the court judges, my question is, why wasn't there more market research done here? Surely, with this amount of research going back at least 3 years where the trademarking began, if not more, they obviously would have considered things like a launch in the UK, a global launch, or a launch of clothing later on down the line, which is one of the things she even successfully copyrighted all of those years ago. So it's confusing that they would overlook these large businesses with similar names and not think they were impeding on copyright or would have copyright issues in the future, and of course brings up the question of uniqueness once again. We even have been told from the clothing company that Bieber tried to buy the company in 2018, so we know that she was aware of similarly named companies and knew they would have copyrighted the names. So because of that, it really doesn't seem as if being unique was a genuine concern of the company. They just didn't care? Very confusing. This really is a problem that would follow the brand too. They began doing seasonal releases, much like most other cosmetic companies, because it is an easy way to increase demand by reducing quantity and the window of opportunity to buy. They also released 2 new core products in lip tints and glazing milk, which is just an essence with a fun name, of which neither of these products are particularly unique either, and so their only differentiator still just remains in the marketing, branding, and celebrity endorsement. But unfortunately for Rhode, that leaves them with a real quantity of competitors. They don't all make the same products, but brands like Skin, Glossier, Rare Beauty, Kosas, Tower 28, Merit, Youthforia, REM, The Ordinary, Jones Road, Bare Minerals, Dr. Jadatu all have not the same but similar vibes, which means that the brand really has a job to stand out from the crowd. Minimal skincare has been trendy for a while, so that's of course what all of these brands found success through. However, that does make it difficult when following these trends to find their own voice, which is pretty much a necessity for longevity. But their troubles didn't quite end with just the branding and the product range. In late 2022 and early 2023, reviews started to pop up from dissatisfied customers claiming that the products were grainy, caused their skin to break out more than usual, caused a burning sensation or rashes, and was drying out their skin and lips. This began, I believe, with Morgan Adams of the Shane Dawson Group and evolved with several people on TikTok and YouTube saying pretty much the same thing. Later, it was theorized that it was either due to the products had included tree nuts that were void of a warning label on the packaging, causing an allergic reaction, or the other theory is that peptides can cause reactions on the skin too for those with sensitive skin, so either of which could have been the reason for such negative adverse effects. Regardless of the reason, though, these complaints directly impacted their marketing, where they had previously heavily accredited their formulas to chemists and dermatologists, and therefore brought into question if that actually affected the formulas more than other brands that were probably doing very similar tests just on a quieter level. To me personally, it reminded me a bit of Savage Fenty, but most of the early reviews were from influencers that got free PR or sponsor videos, and then over time, the more negative reviews, whether the customer was speaking in honesty or disgruntled at being misled, started to drip through. Plus, all of this was going on when the discourse around Hailey Bieber and Selena Gomez was buzzing up again, so that obviously affected brand perception because of stan culture, which this book does a wonderful job at explaining how that in itself can affect reputation of a company, especially when tied so closely to a personal brand, both in a positive and negative way, of course, as seen with Rhode. This also saw their two brands get heavily compared in social media, and it seems that fans were very polaric in their enjoyment of one or the other of the brands, but never both. Furthermore, just because I think if you have watched my video on Rare Beauty before this one, you may notice some similarities in terms of their philanthropic efforts, which I feel like I probably should discuss, considering how my Rare Beauty video really went down a very shady rabbit hole in that region. So, in a nutshell, Rare aims to donate 1% of their earnings to raise awareness for mental health through her fund that pays her and several other people a wage and gives them a massive tax break as well. You may know that Rhode too has a similar 1% donation foundation attached to it called the Rhode Futures Foundation. This is still 100% done for tax reasons and probably also for good PR, but unlike Rare Beauty, I couldn't find a shady parent company or anything like that. And I looked into all three of the charities that they're linked with as well. So they have Akion Opportunity Fund, Black Mamas Matter Alliance, and the Lift Family Goal Fund. And I couldn't find anything shady there either. So while neither are actually made to help people, that's neither of their primary goals, it's almost like a byproduct of them avoiding taxes, they do have that one very large point of difference, being that Rhode Futures Foundation seemingly is privately owned by Hailey Bieber, and I couldn't find anything remotely on the scale of what was happening behind the scenes at Rare. I'm not saying that it definitely hasn't happened, I'm just saying that I couldn't find any of that in my research. However, I did learn that Rhode has a recycling program, which I didn't realize that I didn't know before, so that's great for the environment, and I'm surprised that I didn't know it. But just going back to the timeline, the brand is actually based on trends at the moment and is doing particularly well. They potentially had revenue of 8 figures by the end of 2022, and by March 2023, they expanded into Canada and the UK quite successfully, so everything seems to be on the up for the brand, coming into September 2023 when they expanded into 5 more areas of Europe in Spain, France, Germany, Italy, and Ireland, all while continuing to extend the life of the brand, mostly from seasonal or limited releases and Hailey Bieber's celebrity status. But this absolutely is not a company that has longevity built in. Earlier in the video, I showed you a competitor analysis through a perceptual map, including companies that they have been likened to, which is evidence that not only are they very trend-based, but that they have little to make them actually stand out from the crowd. Dr. Dre goes into this in her video, where she breaks down the chemical ingredients of the products and concludes that they are decent quality, the formulas are good, however the products themselves also do not stand out amongst the plethora of like products on the market. The products do work and they're well formulated, they're just not unique. So with the packaging quite generic, product quite generic, the branding quite generic, Rhode really doesn't have that differentiator built into the tangible aspects of the business. Sure, the marketing touts that it is more considered than other brands, though that's questioned after their rash scandal, and of course they are able to rely on her celebrity status to keep the brand name in the public eye. But tangibly, there is nothing unique about the brand, meaning that it really is likely just meant as a cash grab and not as a product that has been of genuine concern to Mrs. Bieber throughout her life. Despite that, the customers that have been sold on Rhode are now very much looking forward to new products from the company. I know a cleanser is often discussed. I think candles would be good, honestly. I know they trademarked those all the way back in 2020. And I'd like to see just a straight up moisturizer from the brand. All of those like super hydrating, calming products all would very much work with their branding, and it seems like they've done a very good job at keeping their brand consistent in that branding. Do I think the brand will last forever? No, there's not really enough there to differentiate the company when the celebrity factor is removed or when the trend for this kind of skincare does eventually die. But it's likely that they know this. It's so heavily based on trends and Hailey's personal popularity that it would be foolish for them not to consider that it would go downhill shortly. At the end of the day, they have done what few celebrity brands have been able to and had a particularly profitable launch. But whether this will still be here in 5 or 10 years is yet to be seen. I really genuinely hope them well in the future. I hope it lives on for a good few years yet, even if it's not particularly special. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. For more videos like this one but about fashion brands, check out my fashion channel, Understitch, and a special thank you goes out to my Patreon patrons, some of whose names are on the screen now. For a link to my Patreon, please check the description box below.